Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to look at how to rationalize the denominator of a fraction. So what that means is, in our fraction, the denominator is a square root, meaning it is irrational. We want to make this denominator rational by getting rid of the square root, so replacing it with a normal integer or number. Doing this is actually relatively easy, and all you want to do is multiply the denominator by itself again. So right now, our denominator, which is the bottom part of our fraction, is root 2. To rationalize this, we want to multiply root 2 by itself. So in other words, root 2 times root 2. And whenever you multiply a square root by itself, the square root drops. And all you're left with is what's inside, so we're left with 2. And by doing this, we get rid of our square root and we have rationalized the denominator. So when we take this over to our problem, we can't just randomly multiply our denominator by root 2 because that would be unfair. We're just changing the problem. But to make it so we can do this, we can times root 2 by both the bottom and the top. Because if we do this to the bottom and the top, it's the same as if we were multiplying this fraction here by 1. As root 2 over root 2, whenever you have the same thing on the top and bottom of a fraction, that's just equal to 1. So essentially here we're timesing this fraction by 1, so we're not changing the fraction itself, but we are rationalizing the denominator. So if we do that, we get 1 times root 2, which is root 2, and root 2 times root 2, and if you remember, when you times a square root by itself 2 times, the square root drops and you're left with just what's inside, meaning we get root 2 on 2. Let's look at another example to ensure we understand this. So let's say we have 4 on root 3, and we want to rationalize this denominator as it's root 3. So if you remember back from our original problem, all you have to do is multiply both the top and the bottom by whatever the denominator is. So our denominator is root 3, meaning we get root 3 times root 3. And that is the same as timesing this fraction by 1, so we're not changing anything or breaking any math rules, but we are rationalizing this denominator by doing this, as we will get 4 times root 3, which is 4 root 3, which is the same as 4 times root 3 because there's a little times there, but we don't need to show it, over 3. As remember, when you're multiplying a square root by itself 2 times, we drop the square root and are just left with what's inside it. Meaning we have rationalized this denominator here to take 4 on root 3 to 4 root 3 on 3. And you just learned how to rationalize the denominator of a fraction. One thing I should note before we end the video is this doesn't work for every problem when rationalizing the denominator. This only works when the denominator only consists of one square root, like this. As soon as you start adding more stuff down here, say root 2 plus 3 or minus something or anything that's not just one square root down the bottom, a few more steps are added to this process. But that's a topic for another video. So to recap this video, just remember that when you have your fraction and the square root down the bottom where it's just one square root, all you have to do is times whatever that square root is by the top and bottom of your fraction and simplify, and you get your rationalized fraction. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. See you next time.